Good afternoon. We are continuing using those function tables. Remember yesterday I talked about how when we have those function tables, we can turn them into X and Y coordinates so we can graph. Ooh, we're getting to it already. So we're going to start learning CO47. I can identify the domain and range of a relation. Ooh, it's a little bit new vocab words. Hello? Oh, it's 12:45. I bet you're looking for Amelia. Nope, she's here. I will send her. Thank you. Bye. Who do you need? Other room. All right, so first things first, we need to break down what these new words mean. So, I can identify the domain and range of a relation. Well, let's look at what a relation is. A relation is a collection of ordered pairs. Which would be a table or graph. So it's that collection of ordered pairs, organized either in a table or on a graph. The domain are the X values of a relation. So what do you think the range is, Maddie? The Y values of a relation. So we have our X values and our Y values. We can get them from the function table and put them on the graph. We can get them from the graph and put them in a function table. We are going to discuss relations in two forms. We're going to write the domain and range of each. So we have our XY table, that function table, and we have our coordinate planes, the graphing. So we can go back and forth between the two. In Khan Academy, that's due tonight. One of them has given you the line, and you need to write the X or the Y from the line. It's as simple as that. Don't overcomplicate it. Okay? If they say if X is 2, what's the Y? Just look on the graph. Go to X2 and then look at what the line hits for the Y. That's your answer. All right. Is everybody done writing? Okay. So, of course it doesn't want to scroll for me. So let's look at our XY table. What would our domain be? What is the domain of this table? What are our domains? What's the domain, Molly?
It's a negative 10.
Is it just negative 10? So list them for me.
10, negative 5, 2, 4, and 0.
Yeah. In this function table, our domain are all of the x's. So it's not just one of them, it's all the x's. Those are our domains. What's our range? Sam?
Negative 3, 0, 8, 2, and negative 1.
It's really distracting. So our range are all of my y's. Pretty basic, right? So now let's look at the coordinate plane. It's a little bit harder when we look at that coordinate plane to be able to list all of them, because could X just be 1, 2, 3, or could it be the numbers in the middle, right? It could be 1.1, 1.11, 1.111, 1.11111. So it's all of those numbers. So our domain is all real numbers. And our range, same thing. That's going up or down or going left to right. It's all real numbers. Yeah, the line continues going. It's not a segment. It goes on and on. We've got the arrows. Okay? It continues on and on. So if that line, if we continued it all the way down here, that's going to be a big negative, right?
So basically, like, the arrows are pointing both directions to all your numbers.
Yeah, when it's a line, because it'll continue. But now we have a segment. Can it be all real numbers if it's a segment?
No.
Because that segment means our line will stop. We have a beginning and an ending point. So now our domain is from -1 to 5. So it's any numbers from -1 to 5. We can't continue past 5. 7 will not work. It's not part of the segment. For the range, what would our range be? 1 to 7. Because we start here and we can go up to 7. So it's any number from 1 to 7. Can't be 0. 0 is not part of our segment for the Y. Can't be 8. Not part of the segment. Okay, so you have to pay attention. Is it a line or is it a segment? Make sense?
Yeah.
All right. Let's scroll up. Yeah, I'll get it. So now it says write the domain. Write the domain and range of the line or segment. So the function table was really easy to write the domain and range. This is new, looking at our coordinate plane, looking for the domain and the range. So if we look at, so remember the difference between a line goes on forever and a segment has its endpoints. So if there is no arrow, it is a segment. If there are arrows, it continues on. So look at our first coordinate plane. Is that a line or a segment?
Segment.
It's a segment. There are no arrows. So our domain has a beginning and an end. What would our domain be for this first segment, Andrea? Remember domain is the x's. This is our x's going left and right. -4, because that's where our segment starts, -4 to 5, because that's where it ends. So our range, remember range is the y, The y goes, oh my, that looks like an X. The y goes up and down. What is my range? Julia? 1 to 3, because we start at that 1 and we go up to 3. So the range is, arrow, 1, 2, 3. Yes, Paul?
It looks like it starts from 4.5.
So the way that it's numbered is the numbers are just slightly off from the line, but the line is the -1, the line is the -2, the line is the -3. It just got shifted when he expanded it and made it a little bit larger for us to see. So just know that the numbers correspond with the lines, the graph lines. So let's look at our second figure. See if you can figure out what it would be. So now we're going to teach you a new symbol, and I'm looking up real quick what the symbol is supposed to look like, because Mr. Schultz is a little bit sloppy. So I'm trying to show you what would our range be for the domain. Is it a line or a segment? Line. So if it's a line, what is our domain? Yeah. So instead of writing all real numbers, here's what it looks like. So, no, it's not a 1. So, no, because it's not. All right. So what he has written is a little bit different than what I'm looking up. What I'm looking up, it looks like it's just an R, like that, but then there's a line that comes down like that. Shh. Why do we need to know the symbol? Where might we see the symbol? Molly? Any test, any math test. Map test, Khan Academy, any kind of thing. You need to know what that symbol stands for. At our winter testing, I had people come back from the test and they said, there was this written on there and I didn't know what it meant. So I wasn't sure how to answer the problem. And we looked it up and it was something really simple. And they went, oh. So we need to know that this symbol stands for all real numbers. It looks goofy, but that's really, that's how he writes it. And on, when I looked it up, it just looks like a fancy R. So it's a fancy R when I Googled it. So, So that's the symbol for the set of real numbers. So if you were going to handwrite it, you would write it like that. You'd write the uppercase R with the line next to it. And just know that that means all real numbers. So, sorry, say that again.
So we write that on the on a sheet.
Yeah, it would probably be good to remind ourselves that that's what that symbol means. So remember, when it is a line, they are all real numbers for both the domain and the range. Let's look at our last figure. Is our last figure a line or a segment? A segment. So what does that tell us? If it's a segment, what does it tell us, Nathan? Yeah. And it starts at a certain point. So it has a certain start and a certain stop. So how do I write my domain and range for it, Leah? What would I put for my domain for this one? -4 to -1, because we go from -4 to -1. What would my range be? Gavin? Remember, the range is the y going up and down. So what number does our segment start at? 0. And I draw the arrow because it goes all the way to what number? Following that y-axis. So we're starting at 0 and we're going all the way up to what number? 5. So our work for today, we need to do both a table and a graph. What? Oh, yeah, we have half an hour. We're going to do both. Shh. Thank you to my friends for being calm and respectful. Shh. You have plenty of time. Okay, so you're going to make your table. What would my table look like for my first one? Remember, when we do that function table, all we have to do to label it is my x and my y. So if my first domain is -4, what's my y going to be?
No, 4, 3.
Yeah, it goes -4 to the 3. So then I'm going to do -1 to -4, 6 to 6, 0 to 10, 2 to -1. I'm sorry, what? I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, you're talking about the inequalities? Less than or equal to? We'll go over that. So how would I graph this? How am I going to graph it? I'm going to look at, okay, I need to go, my biggest negative number is -4. My biggest positive number is 10. Then I have, oh, that's only 6 for my x. So for my y, I go down to -4. I go up to 10. And then I just graph it. -4, 3. -1, -4. +6, +6. Oh, you know what he wants you to do? Oh, I see what he's saying. You know what? For these ones on the left, he wants you to do the function table. The ones on the right with the inequalities, on the right, we're going to do, anyone that has the inequality, you're going to do a graph. Anyone that's the function table, or that's the regular whole numbers, you're going to do a function table.
Wow.
Makes more sense. So let's look at that inequality. So if you have just whole numbers, you're doing a function table. If you have inequalities, you're going to do the graph. Going to be a whole lot easier, friends. So let's look at how we would graph that. If my domain is -3 is the smallest, so -3 is less than or equal to x. So on that x line, where do I want to start? Maddie?
Oh, wait, no, -3.
-3. Because nothing is going to go beyond -3 because x is greater than or equal to -3. So what is my endpoint going to be, Chase? 5, because that's the other end. So my x is going to be between -3 and 5. So is this going to be a line or a segment? If my x is in between -3 and 5, can it be a line? No, because it has an endpoint, a start point and an end point. That's why we have the inequalities, because that's our x is only between -3 and 5. So we know it's going to be a segment. So we're between -3 and 5. So let's look at our y. It's going to be between 2 and 4. So we're going to go up like that. What is my first point going to be, Andrea?
-3.
My x is -3. My y is +2. So that's where I'm going to put my beginning point of my segment. So what's my end point, Colin?
5,
+4. That's my end point. And then I have to connect it. Oh, I did a really poor job connecting it. Does that make sense on how we graph those inequalities? The inequalities are showing us the x is in between those two numbers. So we know where our beginning part of our segment is and where our ending part of our segment is. You use the first two numbers of your domain and range to make your first pair. You use the last two numbers, our last x and y, to make our last pair, and you know that they're going to connect in between. So when we have our inequalities, we're going to be graphing those segments. When we have whole numbers, we're going to be making our function table. Okay? Any more questions on this? Since we're only doing a function or a graph for each of them, you're going to end up with time. Make sure you've got 100% on all of your Khan Academies. We've done a little bit more with the function tables now. The Khan Academies are making a little more sense. Get your 100% so you can get full credit for Khan Academy. Work on the math packet that we just got. Okay? Use your time wisely. This is not social hour. I don't want to hear random conversations. As much as I love math and I enjoy doing math, it should not get you all giggly and silly. So let's keep it calm. For any friends that are watching or listening at home, we hope you are well and we hope to see you soon.